InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. In today's podcast, going to be looking at a few public and private company announcements from the VLNS Company Incorporated, trading on the TSX as VLNS and the OTCQX as VLNCF. BioHarvest Sciences Incorporated, trading on the CSE as BHSC. Namaste Technologies Incorporated, trading on the TSX Venture as N and the OTC as NXTTF, as well as Greenline POS. So first, starting with the VLNS Company Incorporated, who has announced a white label partnership with Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, trading on the TSX as FAF and the OTCQX as FFLWF. Leading technology-powered cannabis retailer with over 90 corporate-owned stores in Alberta, BC, Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Yukon Territory. And under the terms of the agreement, VLNS will manufacture Fire and Flower's Revity CBD oil for distribution in Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, with potential to expand into additional province and territorial markets where permits are agreed. Tyler Robson, Chief Executive Officer, Co-founder, and Chair of the VLNS Company, commented, Fire and Flower is one of the leading cannabis retailers in Canada with a wide reach in its rapidly growing market. We admire their focus on consumer education and best-in-class retailing and are proud to partner with them for the first time to get high-quality, wellness-focused products in the hands of Canadian consumers. This strategic relationship allows us to strengthen and expand our wellness-focused manufacturing portfolio and provides the opportunity to further our partnership with one of the world's largest cannabis retailers in the country. So Revity CBD oil will be formulated with VLNS proprietary processing methods to remove impurities and bring distinct cannabinoids to the forefront of the consumer experience, and each product includes an integrated dispenser to ensure consistency with each use. And the product focus of the Revity CBD line has been derived from key consumer insights in product formulation, target consumer segments, price, and format in the Hi-Fire digital retail and analytics platform. VLNS Company and Fire Flower doing their first white label project partnership together. I do think that this will probably lead to a very good development and probably future product developments in a white label setting for VLNS with Fire and Flower Holdings in the future. Hopefully just based off of Fire and Flower's Hi-Fire data asset. Again, talking about Revity CBD there. When it comes to, and I've talked about this a lot with Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, when it comes to their data sets, when it comes to their consumer knowledge, due to their Hi-Fire system, their Sparks Perks reward system, they do have a lot of insights into which products have been selling the best. They're also a very well-established retail element in Canada, so they have stores in every province, basically, and a great online store footprint. So I would expect, hopefully, that there will be future white label partnerships with VLNS and Fire and Flower, and I do think that this will probably be a fairly successful launch. And I do think that in the future, that will be kind of one of the better customer or company partnerships that can exist out there, where you have a company that has a great retail footprint and a great digital data set to go off of when it comes to where consumers are buying, what type of products they're going after. And then you partner with a company like VLNS, who has pretty much infinite product capabilities through all the partners that they work with, and has really mastered the science of making Cannabis 2.0 products. So I think that this is a step in the right direction for both companies and will probably lead to future partnerships for them again. Looking next at BioHarvest Sciences Incorporated, who announced that the new manufacturing facility in Israel has successfully met the Israel Ministry of Health's ISO 901 and ISO 2200 HACCP certification requirements ahead of time. Now, the ISO 901 certification covers internationally recognized standards for quality assurance and management, and the ISO 2200 certification ensures that the required quality control and quality management systems are in place across the end-to-end manufacturing process to ensure the highest product safety levels. Now, these two certifications are critical steps required prior to obtaining their GMP certification from the Israeli Ministry of Health. Now, Kobe Rosenwig, VP of Operations at BioHarvest Sciences, commented, I'm delighted with the company's ability to successfully pass the internationally recognized stringent quality requirements on its first attempt. Considering at the speed of which this factory was built, this achievement is a testimony to the quality of the team and the ingenuity of the biofarming technology. And I thank our manufacturing partner, Shagart, and especially Ori Han, their CEO, for all the efforts they exerted to deliver such an aggressive schedule. BioHarvest now is set up their Israeli manufacturing facility. Again, not fully certified, but is in the home stretch. And this is something to pay attention to, again, when you're looking at the global cannabis market. Again, I've talked a lot about companies coming out of Latin America who have focused on EU GMP certification and their ISO certification right out of the gate. Many of these companies have had these certifications for a year and a half, getting close to 2 years now. Even a lot of the Canadian counterparts are much slower on these certifications and getting them than some of their international counterparts. Again, when you're looking at Israel, when you're looking at its potential import abilities and capabilities into the EU marketplace, that's where a lot of the speculation around Israeli cannabis and cannabis sales are right now. Obviously, there's still a strong Israeli local market, but it doesn't have the same appeal as the EU marketplace right next to it. And I do think that, again, it shows that as much as there are many companies who are jumping into this space, many of them are definitely further behind than some of the rest that are looking at this as more of an international industry. And this is why I do say that a lot of these Latin American companies could potentially be much more successful in the long run than some of their other international, especially looking at Canadian counterparts who are trying to sell to the EU. The US, you're not really seeing a lot of focus on outside of the US sales right now, so they're pretty much a self-contained market. Whereas, again, when you're looking at Israel, there is a lot more competition starting to pop up there. There's also parts of Africa that are also starting to pop up production facilities and get their certifications and get their import and export licenses. And then you are starting to see as well within the EU, a lot of the countries there are starting to build up or at least allow for regulations to give them access to some local production, which is now starting to get to scale. Again, getting those certifications, it is a slower process getting, it seems, your production license within an EU country versus outside of it and getting certifications to import into it. But I do think in the long run, these certifications are going to be very essential for a lot of businesses to compete in a global cannabis industry, and it does show that many of these companies do anticipate a global cannabis industry, and also that these will be sort of the standards that have to be adhered to. So a few of these different ISO certifications as well as their EU GMP certification will be pretty much essential if you want to be a cannabis producer or cannabis seller within the international scope of things. Next, looking at Namaste Technologies, who announced that a corporate update, including that the board has approved a name change for Namaste Technologies. So it's going to be updating its ticker symbol to LFST, which is expected to commence on the TSX Venture on Market Open on September 15th, and will be changing its name to Lifest. Lifest seeks to be a bold and disruptive wellness company striving to connect humanity with safe, innovative, and often daring pathways to individual definitions of wellness, said Manny Moram, CEO of Lifest. The Lifest rebrand speaks to higher living, resonating with multi-billion-dollar global market of consumers seeking to unlock their extraordinary. And it's an exciting time for the company and its continued evolution to wellness as we look forward to complementing the company's current portfolio of wellness of cannabis, hemp-derived CBD, and accessories by delivering on our promise to establish a nutraceuticals division by the end of Q4 2021. Within the Lifest portfolio of wellness interests lies the UK's wellness website, everyonedoesit.co.uk, and Lifest has now announced expansion of its product offering to include hemp-derived CBD products, and it seeks to tap into the second largest global market for the hemp-derived CBD, estimated to generate £700 million in annual sales in 2021, according to the Association of Cannabinoid Industry and the Center for Medical Cannabis. Namaste Technologies, now going to be known as Lifest. It'll be Lifest Wellness Incorporated. Sure, I guess that makes sense for them going in the direction that they're going to be going in, focusing a little bit more on nutraceuticals. I've commented on that in the past, where a lot of the companies that are in the CBD space right now are also starting to enter into the functional mushroom and nutraceutical space. I do expect that kind of all three of those sub-segments will just become one wellness sector over the next couple of years. Seeing how things are going with functional mushrooms. Again, I don't think psychedelic mushrooms are going to be entering into that space anytime soon. They're always going to be in a clinical, very regulated backdrop. But I do think for a lot of the again, functional mushroom product lines that you're starting to see come up all over the place, as well as nutraceutical lines. Eventually, those will probably all combine somewhat with CBD as well to create wellness drinks, wellness edibles, etc. And I do see that that is obviously in line with what Namaste is trying to do here, changing their name. I do think that Lifest is a very strange, worthless name, going from Namaste Technologies. Namaste does mean wellness, but I guess sure, Lifest means wellness more. So that's kind of the direction they're going in. And then again, come next week, you'll see their ticker symbol change to LFST instead of the N. Lastly today, looking at Greenline POS, Canada's main retail point of sale software, who announced a live menu integration with Weedmaps, which is one of the leading online listing marketplaces for cannabis consumers and businesses. So Greenlane's live menu integration will now enable clients' product menus to be updated in real time on Weedmaps, eliminating pain point experiences with having to update multiple menus across platforms and resulting in more seamless customer experiences. It's critical for cannabis retailers to have a wide-reaching digital presence to provide the best possible consumer experience, said Albert Kim, Chief Executive Officer of Greenline POS. And we're excited to work with Weedmaps to provide online menu functionality for all of our customers. The integration will always be working in the background, but businesses will still have the capability to update their Weedmaps menu from the Weedmaps platform, allowing businesses to customize promotions and offerings for each platform. As well as managing menus, this integration will also enable cannabis retailers to search brand catalogs and adjust pricing, product information, and product availability in real time. So definitely a good thing for Canadian retailers now that they'll have access to Weedmaps being updated in real time with their Greenline POS. That's going to make a lot of the back-end work for a lot of these private and government retail stores a lot easier. I guess the government ones don't have the same issues exactly, but for many of the private retailers in Canada, this hasn't been a huge issue, but it has been an issue. And it is starting to show that I think the next big thing to look for regulation-wise is going to be some sort of marketing and advertising clarity, or at least maybe deregulation when it comes to the cannabis industry, as you've started to see that many of these businesses have become normalized in the communities they're in. They've provided jobs, they've provided tax income, they're providing a lot of benefits to the communities they're involved in. Weed has been deemed essential during COVID-19. There's a lot of things pushing towards a change in the public perception towards cannabis, and this is sort of one of the last big issues of debate, is allowing cannabis and cannabis-related businesses the same sort of marketing and advertising freedom that alcohol companies receive. Again, you can have alcohol sponsoring non-19 plus events all over the place, putting up giant posters, having TV ads, doing basically anything they want, whereas for cannabis companies it has to be extremely slight, if any, marketing is allowed. And this is why the digital marketing and the digital presence is so important for so many companies, as it's pretty much their only option to have marketing or promotions or advertising. So I do think that this combination with Greenline and Weedmaps is going to be really beneficial to a lot of private retailers in Canada, but it's still a big step away from where I think many retailers, as well as many cannabis producers themselves, would love to be. Again, I've talked about brand recognition being one of the biggest issues that almost all these companies face, and this is due to the limiting marketing access that they have. Pretty much all they can do is advertise within the cannabis dispensary, and once the person's in the store, they're also going to be influenced by the bud tenders decision. They're going to be influenced by all sorts of other advertisements, and a lot of people also are just trying to get in and out quickly. So I do think that this is a good step in the right direction, but it does show that there's a huge issue that continues to face the cannabis industry in Canada as well as the US, which is the advertising and marketing side of this, which, again, hopefully over the next year or so, you might see some changes within Canada or the US. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.